When I began photographing and I'd go to an event, I might be the only camera there. Okay? Today, when you go, it's like, can people hear me? Yeah. Today, it's like everybody has a camera. And lots of good stuff comes from that. Stuff that, especially some of the videos, the still photography, and the dissemination of it is really terrific. I began, I guess what I'm going to show today are two groups that I've spent a lot of time with over the years photographing. And one is called ADAPT, or Disabled in Action. This is a group that really pushes the envelope on the street. And they're disabled people. They're national. It's called ADAPT, and a local chapter is called Disabilities in Action. And if you ever go by 714 on Market Street, you'll see a whole center for disabled people, many of whom are Disabled in Action members. And they're sort of fearless. They really don't worry about the police. They don't worry about being arrested. They have a goal in mind whenever they go somewhere, and they're highly disciplined. And the way it sort of works is they say, well, we're going to go to, and they choose a spot. For instance, the first time I was with them, they went to Las Vegas. And they went to Las Vegas because the nursing home operators met there. And one of the goals of ADAPT, or Disabled in Action, is to prevent people from going into institutions, i.e. nursing homes, and be able to get attendant care at home and remain at home, which is also much cheaper. It's about a third the cost of a nursing home. And their goal is to try to force the sort of the reallotment of money from nursing homes, which has an incredibly powerful lobby, and begin to get attendant care. So they pick a spot. What they used to do, they used to pick a spot wherever the nursing home national organization would have a conference, and they would go there and they would demonstrate. Right, and the demonstrations one that I went to is at the convention center. The ADAPT people took their wheelchairs, blocked all the doors, and nobody can get in or out until they had a meeting with nursing home operators. They did the same thing. I was in Chicago. This is in Vegas. And what they did at the nursing home convention, they threw up a cross and threw a wheelchair on it. Right, so a lot of symbolism behind it. They go to Washington, and they'll go to HUD, and they'll block all the entrances at HUD until they're able to meet with somebody high up in the HUD hierarchy that will discuss the issue of accessible housing, the increase of accessible housing. So every place they go, there's sort of they know what they're going for, they know who they want to speak with, and they'll stay until they get somebody to speak with, unless they're all arrested. Right. And this image, what I like about this image, here's looks like somebody who's a very vulnerable person with a squad of police, and and to me that's the kind of I like that kind of an image. It's served. She looks powerful, even though she's surrounded by a squad of policemen. I think for a photographer, the benefit that I've had with this group and with some of the other groups that I work with, I have long-term relationships. So it's almost like I'm embedded in their activities. I know them, they know me over the years, they trust me, and so I use the term embedded in a very positive way, if I may. And I think that's part of if I'm able to capture with some sensitivity the feeling and different aspects, positive aspects of these people's lives, that's part of what it is. So I think this is the Kensington Welfare Rights Union, which morphed into the Poor People's Economic Human Rights Campaign, which is a national movement of poor people who've decided the only way to change things for poor people is for them to organize and push the envelope. They began in Philly with 10 cities in the mid-90s, and these are the 10 cities, to highlight the fact that even though there were 29,000 vacant homes in the city, there were like 13, 14,000 people who were homeless at the point. So these are some of the images from that mid-90s period. And myself, what I do is I give whatever I print, whatever I make, I give to those organizations for their own use. In other words, everything that I have, they have. And they can use it for what they please to use it for. It's their business. I think, like I mentioned before, being embedded, I think it allows me to get close enough to somebody like that to be able to take a picture where she seems comfortable with me to do it. This movement moved from 10 cities to where they began to occupy a church at 8th and York. And they took over an abandoned Catholic church, and they began to set up tents there. They began to build their little homes there. And at first what happened, the Catholic Church was hoping the police would evict them. And there was sort of a standoff, and the police decided they're not touching this. They weren't going near it. And they stayed there for 3 months. And what happened is this is symbolic of one of the pictures, the old parishioners, the old nuns began to come back to the church. They began to have a Sunday morning mass. They got somebody from the community who was a monk, I think, who began to conduct these Sunday morning masses. And then the nuns came back, and some parishioners who had attended there, and they were enthralled with it. And then what happened, people began to bring food and clothing there to the church. And what happened, they began to distribute food and clothing to the neighborhood, to the residents of the neighborhood who were not very well off. The next move was to they started to, when it got really cold at the church, they began to move into the vacant homes. But these were HUD homes. And what they did an analysis of the HUD homes that had been vacant for more than a year, and nothing had been done with them, and they began to break in, and they had people set up electricity. They had people who knew how to deal with electricity and heat. And so that sort of lasted through the winter. But anyway, this group is still around. This is a family about to be evicted from one of the HUD homes. 2 families, actually. This was at a demonstration in St. Paul at the Republican National Convention in 2008. They had a presence there, and the police came. This is in front of the National Constitution Center. They were demonstrating, and the police decided they weren't going to demonstrate. Okay, I think I better go on, huh? Okay? All right, thank you. Thank you very much.